Good morning and welcome to Peace Out, where we are all learning together to peace out. I hope you had a good weekend. I hope you had a little bit of a break and that you didn't forget why we had this weekend. It was not so you could go to the lake. It was to honor those who had died in the service for our country. But we got a holiday out of it. But I hope you did enjoy it. I hope you took some time with friends and family, because that's what will last, right? People are worth investing in. And that's where I want to invest my time. Anyway, I do hope you had a good time. So last week we ended on Friday with talking about planting a seed. And that when we do that, we don't reap an immediate harvest. You don't plant something and then it grows. So then the conversation I was having with you, I can't hear you though, that's okay. I said this week I was going to talk about scriptures where people planted a seed. Now, sometimes when the seed is talked about, it's talked about money. But when we look at James 3:18, which is where we were, it says that the seed the peace is planted, the seed of peace is planted, then it reaps righteousness, right? So it comes up, you still get a harvest, right? But it's not necessarily always money. That's not to say that planting money as a seed into a ministry or into somebody else's life is still a seed, and you will still reap a harvest on that, right? But it's not always money. So the first one we're going to look at, do you have any idea what we're going to look at? Because I didn't tell y'all. I didn't know either, honestly. So I've studied several different things. I've got two different ones, and I'm kind of still looking. But I wanted to start with Ruth. Ruth planted a seed in Naomi's life. And it was in a really hard time. The book of Ruth is only 4 chapters long. I think it's 4. Let me double check that. Yep, 4 chapters long, just 4 pages. The little bitty book, right, in the Old Testament. And Ruth is Naomi's daughter-in-law, and both of Naomi's sons have died, and left both of their wives as widows, as very young, no children. And so Naomi says, "I just want to go home," And so she's in a grief. They're all in a grieving state. And so they're in this grief. The 2 younger women have lost their husbands, and Naomi has lost both of her sons. And so she's like, "I just want to go home." And she goes, "Y'all just go back to your families and find somebody else. Go find somebody else and have a family, and no hard feelings." And Orpah said, "I'll take you up on that." And she went home, right? No bad feelings, right? That's cool. That's you got to do what you got to do. I can't imagine having to work through some of those emotions and making those decisions, right? Ruth said, "No, you know what? I'm going to go with you." And, she said, I want your people to be my people. And so she was faithful to Naomi and didn't even have to be. It wasn't something that someone was pressuring her to do. It wasn't something that anyone had talked her into. It doesn't even say she prayed about it. She just said, "No, you know what?" Because Naomi's like, "Even if I have more children for you to marry, you'd have to wait for them to grow up. You're going to be old by then," right? And so she's like, "There's no hope here," is how she felt. Ruth said, "No, you know what? I just want to be with you. I want your people to be my people. I want to go where you go. So let's just do this thing." And she planted that seed of faithfulness. Now, as the story goes on, Boaz enters, because Ruth is gleaning the fields, which was totally part of their culture back then. They would actually leave some. They were told in the law to leave some behind when they went through and harvested the fruit, and they were to leave a little bit behind for the poor and those who needed it, and they could come and pick it up. And Boaz ended up seeing Ruth and leaving more for her. He'd say, "Leave some handfuls on purpose for her," right? So he started taking care of her. He's showing her favor, and he doesn't have to. As a matter of fact, he says this in chapter 2, "I know," they're like, "Why are you being so kind to her? Or why are you being so kind to me?" She asked. "I'm only a foreigner." And he said, "I know the love and kindness you have shown your mother-in-law since the death of your husband. And I've heard how you left your father and your mother and your own land." And he said, "May God bless you." And he said, "May you take refuge in God." So he said, "I know the seed of faithfulness that you planted in Naomi's life." He said, "I recognize that." Now, he didn't call it a seed, but it was a seed. It was something she was planting, something she did, right? And so here's what happened was that she ended up marrying Boaz. Boaz redeemed her. So she got this faithful redeemer because he did not have to. He chose to redeem Ruth in this situation, and he took her. But then the harvest was even greater than just getting a great husband who's going to take care of her and love her all of her days, right? It was even bigger than that because she ended up being let's see, it says, she had a son, and I think Jesse was her, let's see, they named him Obed. He was the father of Jesse, who was the grandfather of David, right? So she had Obed. So she actually gave birth to David's grandfather. And she's one of the only 4 women mentioned in the lineage of Christ. And so from that one act of faithfulness, that one decision, no, I want to be with you. I want your people to be my people. I'm going to leave all that I have here and I'm going with you. And that one decision, that one sowing that faithfulness, sowing that unsolicited love, because Naomi's like, look, no hard feelings. Just go live your life. You don't owe me anything. And she's like, no, I want to be with you. And she sowed that faithfulness in her. And when she did in that situation, and she reaped a harvest of a nation, because we're part of that nation by faith. Think about that. We are part of that nation. We're part of Ruth's inheritance because of marrying Boaz, and she was redeemed, and she had, kids. She had David's grandfather. It was just an amazing story if you think about it, when all she did was say, I just want to be faithful to you. I don't even owe you faithfulness. I don't have to be. Society doesn't expect this of me. You don't expect this of me, but I want to be faithful to you in this situation. And she sowed that into Naomi's life, and Naomi was blessed. Because Naomi then has a child that's her namesake, even though it was her daughter-in-law, but she got to enjoy that harvest from Ruth's faithfulness. Plus, Ruth was a companion to her. It seems like, I'm reading into the story a little bit here, it seems like they became friends. When we plant faithfulness into other people's lives, when we plant peace in other people's lives, when we plant patience even into other people's lives. When we take the time to put something into, situations that we don't even know we're going to get anything back from. Ruth didn't plan that. Ruth didn't say, okay, I'll tell you what, I'm going to be faithful with you. I'm going to go with you because, this will be a payoff in the end. I'll find a husband, or I'll find or I'll do this. She didn't know she was going to get anything for it. And that's kind of the key to planting a seed. Seeds, I think in the 70s and maybe 80s and 90s and even probably still today to a degree, is taught, plant that seed, give me some money. It's mostly what they're saying. Give me some money and you'll get that harvest. And so a lot of people, and it can be very manipulative. A lot of ministries are very manipulative with that. I need 100 people to give me $100 and you're going to get 100-fold before you walk out of, all kinds of crazy stuff people say. I've heard people say, but it's not about planting a seed so that you get the harvest. Sometimes you're planting that seed not knowing if there's a harvest. Ruth had no idea that Boaz was going to redeem her. She had no hope of a redeemer. And yet she got a faithful partner, a faithful husband that would watch over her and take care of her and then help her raise a family that was going to be the generation of Christ that Christ came from. Isn't that amazing? When she planted that faithfulness, she reaped a harvest of faithfulness, of a faithful redeemer who would take care of her and watch over her. And it was a totally unexpected miracle in her life and turnaround in her life. I need some of that, right? So plant some seed, plant peace in somebody's life. You don't know how you'll reap from that. James tells us we'll reap righteousness, right? So plant some peace in somebody's life. Plant righteousness in somebody's life. Plant faithfulness in other people's lives. Plant the word in other people's lives. Plant faith in other people's lives, because you will reap a harvest, and it won't look anything like what you may have thought, right? But God he'll watch over that seed, and he is the Lord of the harvest, and he will bring a harvest that we will be able to benefit from. So you know what? I'm just going to sow peace into you today. Peace out. Today is a good day to peace out. That's what I'm going to do. I hope you do too. Have a great day. Hope I said something that made sense. I'll see you again tomorrow.